Welcome to Witches in Yoga Pants, your cozy corner of the cosmos where modern magic meets everyday life. We're here to explore magic, mindfulness, and personal growth with a grounded, no-fluff vibe. Whether you're into moon rituals, tarot spreads, or just trying to survive Mercury retrograde, you are in the right place. So get ready to disrupt some old patterns, explore what it means to reclaim your power, and remember who you really are. So pull up your yoga mat, light a candle, and let's get into it. Hello and welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I want to talk about something that comes up with clients all the time. And honestly, it's something I think almost every one of us has experienced at some point. Anxiety, overthinking, second-guessing ourselves, getting stuck in indecision, knowing we need to make a choice but feeling completely unable to move forward because our minds are running 100 different scenarios and every possible outcome feels equally important. What is interesting is that when I work with clients, especially those who I've worked with on their human design, they know their authority. They can tell me whether they're emotional, sacral, splenic, ego, self-projected, mental projected, or a reflector. They know. We have went over it. We've worked on it. And yet, when it comes time to make an actual decision, all of that knowledge seems to disappear. We all do it, including myself. So what happens is, instead of following their authority, they begin gathering opinions. They ask friends what they should do. They ask family members what they should do. They pull cards over and over, asking the same question. They research every possibility. They create pros and cons lists, they imagine every worst case scenario, and they convince themselves that if they just think about it a little bit longer, they'll finally arrive at certainty. The problem is that certainty and alignment are not the same thing. In fact, one of the greatest misunderstandings I see in both personal development and spirituality is the belief that if something is truly right for us, we should feel completely certain before we move forward. But life doesn't always work that way. Human design certainly doesn't work that way, and our intuition rarely works that way. Many of us have been taught to trust our minds above everything else. We are taught to think harder, analyze more, research more, prepare more. We're praised for being logical, thoughtful, and creative. Now, don't get me wrong. The mind is an incredible tool. It can help us learn, it helps us communicate, and it helps us to understand the world around us. But according to human design, the mind was never designed to make decisions. That statement alone can feel uncomfortable because most of us have spent our entire lives trying to make decisions from our minds. We think our way through relationships. We think our way through career choices. We think our way through major life changes. And we wonder why we're exhausted. The human design system teaches that for most people, wisdom does not come from the mind. It comes from the body. It comes from our authority. The mind is meant to observe. The authority is meant to decide. When anxiety enters the picture, however, it becomes very easy for the mind to overpower the authority. Let's start by talking about the head center, because this is often where the process begins. The head center is a pressure center, and it's designed to inspire questions. It creates mental pressures to think, wonder, imagine, and seek answers. Notice that I said it creates questions, not answers, but questions. For those with an undefined head center, there can be a tremendous pressure to answer everyone's questions. You may pick up on concerns, fears, uncertainties from the people around you and feel compelled to solve them. You will even feel compelled to come up with your own answers this way. For those with a defined head center, there might be a constant stream of internal questions and mental activity. Neither of these is a problem. The challenge happens when we mistake mental pressure for guidance. Just because your mind is asking a question does not mean that you need to answer it immediately. Just because your mind is worried about something, that doesn't mean that worry is true. Just because your mind can imagine a terrible outcome does not mean that that outcome is likely. Then we move to the Ajna Center. The Ajna wants certainty, it wants understanding, and it wants things to make sense. And once again, there's nothing wrong with that, but life is not always certain. Many of us have unknowingly created a rule that says, I can trust myself once I'm completely sure. The problem is that complete certainty rarely arrives. So we stay stuck. We postpone decisions. We wait, we overanalyze, we gather more information. And all that while our authority is patiently sitting there waiting for us to listen. One of the biggest shifts that happened for me when I began working with human design was realizing that my authority and my anxiety sound very different. Anxiety tends to be loud. It repeats itself. It circles endlessly. It asks, what if? What if this goes wrong? What if I fail? What if people judge me? What if I regret it? What if I make the wrong choice? Authority is often much simpler. Authority doesn't usually argue. Authority doesn't need a 10-page presentation. Authority doesn't need to convince you. It simply knows. Or it waits, or it responds, or it whispers. One of the reasons people struggle to hear their authority is because they are waiting for it to sound like their anxiety. They're waiting for it to become louder than fear. But that's not how it works. For many people, authority feels quieter than the mind. It feels simpler than the mind, and it's definitely less dramatic. And because it's less dramatic, we often overlook it. Another piece of this conversation that I think is really important is conditioning. Many of us learn very early in life that trusting ourselves wasn't safe. Maybe you were criticized when you made mistakes. Maybe you grew up in an environment where your feelings weren't validated. Maybe you were taught that other people knew better than you. Maybe you learned to anticipate everyone's needs before your own. Maybe your intuition was dismissed. Maybe your choices were controlled. Maybe being wrong came with consequences. Whatever it was, over time, the nervous system tends to adapt. It develops strategies to stay safe. And one of those strategies is overthinking. When we overthink, we are often trying to prevent pain. When we overanalyze, we're trying to prevent rejection. When we second guess ourselves, we're trying to avoid making a mistake. The challenge is that the strategy that once protected us can eventually become a thing that disconnects us from ourselves. This is why I often tell clients that healing is not necessarily about becoming fearless. It's about becoming trusting. Trusting yourself, trusting your body, trusting your authority, trusting that you can navigate whatever happens next. Let's talk about the different authorities because anxiety tends to interfere with each one in kind of a unique way. If you have emotional authority, anxiety often creates urgency. You might feel pressure to decide right now, and you might feel pressure to escape uncertainty. But emotional authority is designed to wait. Your clarity comes over time, not in the yes, not in the no, not in the emotional wave itself. Your gift is allowing the wave to move and then see what remains true afterward. The feeling of yes needs to stay a yes over your emotional wave. And this emotional wave can be different for everyone. But once you tune into your emotions as your compass, you'll learn yours. If you have sacral authority, your body already knows the answer. The sacral responds. It'll give you a distinct or mm-mm. It gives the energy or it doesn't. The challenge is that anxiety pulls you into your mind. Instead of listening to the body's response, you begin debating the response. You'll start making that pros and cons list. You'll start explaining your yes or justifying your no. Meanwhile, your body answered the question like 10 minutes ago. If you have splenic authority like I do, your intuition lives in the present moment. The spleen is subtle, but it is immediate. And it usually just speaks once. This can be an incredibly frustrating thing because anxiety never speaks once. Anxiety speaks all day long. The spleen will quietly give you an answer. Anxiety immediately responds with 20 reasons why that's not a good idea. Many splenic people spend years doubting their intuition because they expect it to repeat itself. The spleen doesn't usually do that. It whispers its answer and then it moves on. If you have ego authority, your wisdom comes from your heart and your will. The question is not what makes the most sense. The question is, what do you genuinely want? Many people with ego authority have been conditioned to ignore their desires. They worry about disappointing others. They worry about appearing selfish. They worry about whether their wants are acceptable. Learning to trust ego authority often means giving yourself permission to honor your own desires. If you have self-projected authority, your truth emerges in your voice. You often discover what is right by hearing yourself speak it. The challenge is that anxiety keeps everything trapped inside. You'll rehearse conversations, analyze conversations. You'll think about conversations, but clarity often arrives when you actually speak. If you have mental authority, your environment matters tremendously. Your clarity often emerges through conversations and observations. The challenge is creating enough space to hear your own wisdom reflected back to you. And if you're a reflector with lunar authority, patience is part of your design. The world pressures everyone to move quickly, and this can feel very difficult for a reflector. They are just designed differently. They are designed to wait a lunar cycle, potentially 30 days before being able to make a decision that is true for them. The challenge becomes resisting the urge to force clarity before it naturally arrives. When I think about my clients who are struggling with anxiety and decision making, there are often a few signs that tell me that they've drifted out of their authority and into their mental processing. They keep asking people for advice. They keep researching. They keep pulling cards, asking the same question. They keep revisiting a decision that has already been made. Every answer creates another question. The process becomes exhausting. And it's not because the decision is difficult, but it's because the mind refuses to stop trying to control the outcome. One of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself when you notice this happening is, what does my authority need right now? Not what answer do I need? Not how do I make this uncertainty disappear? Not how do I guarantee this works out? What does my authority need? Maybe it needs more time. Maybe it needs a yes or no question. Maybe it needs stillness. Maybe it needs a trusted sounding board. Maybe it needs to be in the right environment. Maybe it simply needs you to stop asking everyone else. Because at the end of the day, your authority is not designed to guarantee perfection. No authority can promise that every choice will work out exactly as planned. That's not its job. Its job is alignment. Its job is helping you stay connected to yourself. Its job is helping you move through life as the person you came here to be, rather than the person your conditioning taught you to become. I think one of the greatest gifts human design offers is the realization that you don't have to earn self-trust. You don't have to think your way to self-trust. You don't have to achieve your way to self-trust. You build self-trust by listening, one decision at a time, one choice at a time, one moment at a time. The more you honor your authority, the easier it becomes to recognize its voice, and the easier it becomes to recognize when anxiety has taken the microphone. Because anxiety and authority are not the same thing. One is trying to protect you from uncertainty. The other is trying to guide you through it. Until next time, trust the wisdom beneath the noise. Let your authority speak louder than fear. And remember, self-trust is built one decision at a time. Take what you've heard today even further by joining my newsletter community. Each week, you'll receive journal prompts and reflections connected to the episode that are designed to guide you in bringing these conversations off the podcast and into your own journey. Let's keep going deeper together. The link is waiting for you below.